From the four corners of this land we call America the Beautiful, here is a fascinating look at the world around us. RV trips of adventure, discovery, and beauty to find some of the most beautiful and unique places, people, and events on American Odyssey. Join us now as we leave the freeways behind and head for the back roads of America to discover what's just beyond the next bend in the road. From Orlando to Bradenton on the Gulf Coast, we RV our way on the back roads and byways of Central Florida. We'll explore Spaceport, USA, take a peek at Disney World, SeaWorld, a world-class golf resort, and, if you'll pardon the expression, go to the dogs at the Kissimmee Fishing Hole. Here's a back road look at a part of Florida I found fascinating. I came to Florida to see why the snowbirds come here in the winter. In case you're not familiar with the term snowbirds, that's the thousands of folks that come south for the winter in their RVs. And Florida is a natural for the East Coast RVers. We are also here to do a little snooping on Florida's back roads. We picked up our motorhome, a Jamboree by Fleetwood, here at Holiday RV in Orlando, Florida, for the first leg of our fun odyssey of Central Florida. Let's start in Orlando, and later we'll make our way east to the Atlantic beaches. Being a dyed-in-the-wool West Coaster, I had no idea what backroading in Florida would be like. Backroads, you know, start anywhere you want them to, so Orlando is where I chose to begin. I'm an avid backroader, and I was eager to get started, but we must pay our due respects to the city of Orlando, or they may not let me come back. A pretty city, Orlando, but then we found lots of pretty places in Florida. But first, I have some friends I'd like you to meet. Hi, gang. We're in Orlando, Florida, and I've got something to show you. Come on over here. Has anybody got a cracker? I was talking to the other guy. Oh. Hello. 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 Most of the tall buildings in Orlando are bank buildings. Banking must be pretty good in Florida. Lake Eola, in the middle of downtown Orlando, is a reminder that Florida has more lakes than a hound has fleas, and Floridians are itching to use them. The lakes, of course. Next to Interstate 4 is Church Street Station, a shopping and entertainment center to behold. Here you can scare the daylights out of your credit cards or just wander around and oogle at the immensity and fun of this mall. You can enjoy Dixieland jazz at Rosie O'Grady's, country music in the Cheyenne Saloon, or just wander around through the mall and gawk. Hey, I wonder if this guy is one of those rootin' tootin' Florida cowboys.
Am I a real rootin' tootin' cowboy? I can make a lot of noise. But I'm no cowboy.
Now, how can you come to Orlando and not visit Disney World? That would be like being served a fine meal and then not eating. If Walt were alive today, I'm sure he'd be proud of the happiness and joy he has given to the children of the world, including me. And SeaWorld is another of Orlando area's finest for all ages. I had reservations at the Great Outdoors, an outstanding RV park in Titusville. We toured this fabulous RV resort and were mightily impressed. The Great Outdoors RV Resort was more than I expected. Well, there's biking, canoeing, tennis, just parking the RV somewhere, fishing, just laying around, hiking, or of course, golf. That's called the earth. And you're supposed to hit the little ball and not the big ball. That's the way I understand it.
So you're up there on the tee there.
As Vince and I headed out for the first tee, I noticed a hawk circling above, and I wondered if he knew something about my ball that I didn't. So when we got there, I let Vince tee off first. No sense taking any unnecessary chances. Not bad. Not bad. When it was my turn to tee off, I carefully gauged the wind, the magnetic declination of the Earth's magnetic field, the rotation of the Earth, and, of course, the distance to the cup. Then I let her rip.
Holy cow! What a drive!
The ball traveled exactly as I had programmed it to do. However, I noticed a slight hesitation at the edge of the cup, due undoubtedly to a minor variation in the Earth's rotation that I hadn't accounted for.
Holy cow! You did this all the time?
All the time. I corrected the problem on the second hole. Since I was only about 5 miles or so from Cape Canaveral, I got ready to watch the night launch of the space shuttle. What a sight. Till you see this live and in person, as opposed to watching it on television, you don't know how impressive a sight it is. I was so awestruck by the sight and sound that I couldn't take my eyes from it until it disappeared into the infinity of space.
Stable. Stabilization is stable.
A Florida sunrise can be well worth getting up for. How can you do backroading when there are so many touristy things to see and do in this part of Florida? The NASA Space Center beckoned and I just couldn't resist. We crossed the Indian River Bridge to Merritt Island and arrived at Spaceport, USA. And guess what? It's free parking and free admission. Now, how can you beat that? It is so large and there are so many things to see and do here that we just don't have time to show it all. So you're on your own when you come to Spaceport, USA. Oh, and watch for the spaceman or woman. It's hard to tell gender in that spacesuit. And have your picture taken with him or her, whichever the case may be. After Disney World, SeaWorld, and the shuttle launch, I was afraid that everything else in Florida would be anticlimactic. Not to worry. I found lots of places along the way that were just as neat, but in ways of their own. I decided to take a run up north to Daytona Beach to see what's happening. Not nearly as crowded as I expected it to be, but then, well, we got here a few days after spring break, and the crowds of young people were mostly gone. Oh, a few stragglers remained to drive up and down the beach or stand around and check out the girls. And the waves kept rolling in as they had been doing since long before there were any college students on summer break to fill up Daytona Beach. Now it was time to head south along the coast to see what's just around the next bend in the road. as we near our State Road 70 turnoff. Hey, what's this? A flea market. There were things here you just can't do without. Like a saw that can cut locks in half in case you lose your keys.
Wanted by the FBI, killing time, murder, killing time.
He's an orphan, just ragamuffin rags.
Your dog's name is Ragamuffin?
Red bubbles jumps out.
Come up from Cape Cod. It's a great way of American life. It helps people pick up a few dollars and
I was anxious to travel inland to see what Central Florida was like. State Road 70 had the honors. This road takes us through the central portion of Florida from near Vero Beach to the city of Okeechobee at the north end of Lake Okeechobee. Finally, we were on the back roads of Florida. For me, it's a welcome change from the hustle and bustle of the crowded Atlantic corridor and its interminable string of fast food parlors, traffic signals, hotels and motels, and the feeling of someone constantly staring into my rearview mirror. I guess I'm an incurable backroader. In my opinion, that's where you'll find the real America. We drove past orange groves and even some cattle ranches and arrived in Okeechobee just in time to watch people fishing on the lake and the river that flows into the lake. This is a very pretty part of Florida. I've always wanted to take a ride on a swamp boat, so I pulled into Okeechobee Airboat Rentals. Well, after a lot of arm twisting and persistent persuasion, I managed to talk Hal and his wife Barb into taking me for a ride in their airboat out into the alligator-infested Everglades at the north end of Lake Okeechobee.
Oh, no, I don't want to go.
We have to go right.
Oh, my God.
Come on, get up.
I was surprised to learn that there are more than 30,000 lakes in Florida, and 7,700 of them are 10 acres or more in size. Lake Okeechobee is the third largest freshwater lake wholly within the United States and the second largest entirely within the boundaries of one state. It covers about 700 square miles, and its average depth is only about 6 to 10 feet. Well, it wasn't long before we spotted a 10-footer basking in the sun.
See the 12-foot gator right there?
Look at a shot of you pointing at him.
Okay.
Look over here, I'm here.
Okay. See the 12-foot gator over here?
Look here.
Hal pointed out some baby alligators. They were kind of hard to see in among the reeds, but I wasn't about to get out for a closer look. As the boat skims through the tall grasses, you can push the grass blades aside, but don't try to grab them or you'll wind up with cut fingers. It's like a paper cut, and you know how that feels.
Wow. We cheated death again.
When we returned to the dock, we had some fun feeding one of the local nervous residents of the lake. Well, I thank my pilot and navigator for a fun and safe trip and headed for new places. As we crossed the Hissamy River, and even though the sun was getting low in the west, I noticed an intriguing dirt road, so I followed it. Dirt roads that disappear into the woods hold a special fascination for me. I love to see where they go. This one took me to a semi-private fishing spot for some of the locals and their typically southern hound dog. I love dogs.
I wish you liked him well enough to put him in your truck and take him with you.
Next morning, I found myself in Sebring. A little snooping around found me driving through Highland Hammock. Now, I always thought a hammock was something out in the backyard strung between two trees that you placed your body into, along with a mint julep on a hot summer day. Well, according to Webster's New Collegiate Dictionary, a hammock is also a fertile area in the southern U.S., especially Florida, and characterized by hardwood vegetation and humus-rich soil. So there, you're never too old to learn something new. After leaving Sebring and passing through Zolfo Springs on Highway 64, I noticed we were on the Cracker Trail, so named because this was the way the early ranchers drove their cattle to market. The sound of the bullwhip cracking over the heads of the cattle inspired the name. And by a broad definition, people born in Florida are known as crackers. We are now in the small town of Bradenton, where the pirates of the Spanish Main are still up to their old tricks. In this case, they were busy kidnapping the mayor of Bradenton.
What, you get some of those privateer loads up there or what, Harold?
What anyone would want with a used mayor, I can't imagine. In Bradenton, you'll find the DeSoto National Monument. Here on the Manatee River is where Hernando de Soto and several hundred well-armed men landed in 1539. De Soto and his conquistadors traveled up the center of Florida looking for the cities of gold they had heard about, but they encountered only wilderness, Indian attacks, and death. De Soto, after trekking through Florida, Georgia, South and North Carolina, Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, and Texas, finally died in 1542, and his body was laid to rest in the Mississippi River. What an ignominious end to Hernando de Soto's American Odyssey. After studying the history of this land we call the United States of America, it becomes alarmingly clear to me how fortunate it is that we are a united nation and not a hodgepodge of European countries. We came perilously close to sharing America with France, England, and Spain. Maybe that's one more reason we should be thankful to live in America. In the 200 years America has existed, other nations have tried hundreds of forms of government, and all have failed. Only the Democratic Republic of America stands tall and proud. You can go to Germany, but you'll never become a German. You can go to China, but you will never become Chinese. You can go to France, but you will never become French. You can go to Sweden, but you'll never become Swedish. But anyone can come to America and become an American. I think that's what makes this country we call the United States of America the greatest country in the world. May I leave you with a thought? Our success as a nation depends not on what happens in the White House, but what happens in your house.
Backroading Florida, or any other state for that matter, is never complete until you yourself do it. And even then, it would take a lifetime to see it all. Well, maybe that wouldn't even be enough time. I urge you to join me on our next adventure on the backroads of America on American Odyssey.